一个。
对啊，因为那个自拍你手拿得太近了。
台湾有那个自拍棒，你知道吗？我常常看到每个人。看到一个。
Stretched across the landing area down below, and he would have a successful landing. Now, when flight operations were going on, they generally went on for a 12-hour period each day, beginning at noon and going to midnight, or midnight and going to noon. But in either case, it was this combination of daytime and nighttime operations. And the 12-hour period was broken into increments. We called them cycles of an hour and 45 minutes each. At the beginning of each hour and 45 minutes, 12 to 15 aircraft would be launched off the front of the ship in that direction. And as soon as they got airborne, the ship's now in a position to land the aircraft that launched an hour and 45 minutes earlier. So we would repeat that hour and 45-minute cycle, launching, landing, refueling, rearming, switching the crews out over and over again for that 12-hour period. So it was high-tempo operations. It was a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to be a part of. Now, our next stop is going to be the chart house, so we're headed out this way. Remember what I said about looking down at the parking lot, okay? All right, follow me, please. Where people would come to watch flight operations if they weren't working. They could come right up here and they could watch aircraft being launched off the front of the ship. They could watch them landing back here on the angled deck. The only problem was it was really noisy out here, so you had to wear ear protection because of all these jet engines turning. And it was called Vulture's Row because everybody would be out here kind of leaning over like this, looking down at the flight deck like a bunch of vultures waiting for something exciting to happen down there. So that's where the name comes from.
These all antennas?
Yeah, they are. Actually, there's a little exhibit right down below. Once you finish the tour here, go out and take a look at that, and I'll tell you all about the system. There you go. Sit right in it. And then I'm some of you heard me mention earlier that the Ronald Reagan is right across the bay from us here. You'll see her parked over there. She is a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. She's currently in service, homeboarded here at North Island. It's about 40% bigger than this ship. So if you think this one's big, Ronald Reagan's even bigger. So come on in. Some of you may need to step back into the pilot house.
That one's wider. There's about 1,004. That one's a lot wider than this one.
Okay, so welcome to our third and final stop here on the island tour today. This is called the Navigation Bridge, or the Bridge for short. This is where command and control of the ship was exercised from. This is where the captain hung out. That's the captain's chair right there. This woman's going to be our captain today. So everybody, show her respect.
Did you see her, Joy?
Yeah. On the chair there, you see the initial CO for commanding officer. Now, the captain, you may not like this part. Captain would have been one of the oldest people on the ship. He would have been in his late 40s by the time he assumed command. He's also one of the most experienced carrier aviators aboard. But now, as captain, he's responsible for all the ship's operations and all 4,500 crew members aboard. So, big responsibility. The captain was assisted up here on the bridge by the navigator, who sat in the chair on the other side of the bridge there, one labeled Gator for short. And then in between the navigator and the captain would have been some junior officers working here on the bridge. The most important junior officer was a fellow known as the Officer of the Deck, or the OOD. He's most important because he's the guy actually running things for the captain. The captain's designated him in writing to be in charge, and even though the captain was sitting there in his chair, he was really just monitoring what the ship officer was doing. He would always step in if it were absolutely necessary to do so. So the other junior officers then working for the OOD had several responsibilities, but one of the most important was keeping track of other ships that might be operating in the same area as the Midway. Now, why do you think it would be important to keep track of those other ships? Exactly. You know, just like when you're driving a car and you watch out for other cars to avoid a collision, we had to watch out for other ships for the same reason. Now, you might not think that would be a problem in the middle of the ocean, right? But Midway never traveled alone. She was always part of what we call a carrier battle group. So she was accompanied by other ships, cruisers, destroyers, submarines, and supply ships. So we actually had to watch out for one another. But in many parts of the world, commercial shipping was also a concern. Now, we kept track of those ships on this plexiglass board back here in this extension of the bridge known as the pilot house. Remember the guy up in Pryfly that could write backwards? Well, this was a skill that ran in the family, so we kept his cousin busy down here in the pilot house doing the same thing. I'm going to step back there in the pilot house. You might want to come back there with me to see some of the things I'll talk about there. Back here in the pilot house, we had a couple of really important people working. One of them is known as the helmsman. And if you haven't seen this, step back here and take a look. This is the ship's steering wheel, or helm as we call it. Now, the helmsman would have been about 20 years of age, which was about the average age of the crew aboard Midway. But this guy probably hadn't had a driver's license for very long, but he's the guy driving the aircraft carrier. Okay, well supervised and well trained, but young nonetheless. Another fellow working right here at this piece of equipment was known as the lee helmsman, and he operated this engine order telegraph. This is the way that commands for changes in speed were conveyed from the bridge to the engine rooms down below. So if we needed to speed up or slow down, that order was going to go through the engine order telegraph. Then finally, there's one other room off to the side of the pilot house here known as auxiliary control, or AUXCON for short. And that's where you need to be when the ship is engaged in an activity known as underway replenishment, or UNREP. And that's resupplying the Midway at sea while she's underway. Now, normally we have a photograph, I don't see it here, but of the Midway and one of our supply ships traveling through the open ocean. They're about 150 feet apart, both doing about 12 to 15 knots. The supply ship shoots across lines to convey food, fuel, and other supplies to the Midway while she's underway. This had to be done about once a week. It took several hours to accomplish. Really important part of our operations. In fact, it's the way that that Navy ships are resupplied at sea even today. So underway replenishment is a good thing to go see on the second deck down below. We have a very detailed exhibit about it if you're interested. Now, this is I'll answer questions here in just a moment. We're just at the end of the tour here, so I'm going to lead you out in a moment out this passageway. They'll take you to 3 stairways leading back down to the flight deck. and you're on your own from there. But on the way out, take a look on the left-hand side at the captain's at-sea cabin. That's where he slept, showered, took his meals, and so forth whenever the ship was at sea, so that he could be immediately available if needed on the bridge. And then let me say, for all the docents here aboard Midway, thank you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to take groups like you on a tour of the island and to share a bit about the history of the Midway and the folks who served on us. So thanks for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to meet you all. Take care, everyone. Have a good time while you're aboard.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very
Now I'll
much.
try to catch any questions on the way out here.
I think your picture's right here.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. It was just lying flat, wasn't it? Thank you so much. Yep.
That's pushing up there. Sometimes it falls down. Need to wedge it in there a
Stick it
little
in
bit.
there. Yeah, that's enjoy your time aboard.
Grazie Cecilia.
You're welcome. No hurry going down. Just take your time. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate it very much.
Take care. Enjoy your time aboard today. Take your time going down. No hurry.
I was in radio school in the Marine Corps. The way that works is they can transmit halfway around the world this way, halfway around the world